The pre-mediation stage. Now, is it important for you to see a solicitor before you see a mediator? Hello again, I'm John Hind. I'm often asked this question, and my answer is, well, it depends. In this video, I'll look at some reasons why you might want to or need to see a solicitor before a mediator, and some reasons why it might in fact be a hindrance to see a solicitor before a mediator. I will also consider the type and the training of the solicitor you might want to choose to support you in mediation. Now, our aim as mediators is and always will be to help you think about your options so that you're able to make the right decisions for you and your family during these difficult and often confusing times. So let's look at the first part of that question. Is it a good idea to see a solicitor before your first one-on-one confidential pre-mediation meeting with the mediator? As a former solicitor of many years, I often find it hard to see the practical benefits of doing so at this stage, although I recognise the value of it if it helps each person engage with the mediator in a more confident, relaxed and open-minded way. From an emotional and practical point of view, my experience is that seeing a solicitor very early on, before seeing the mediator, can send the wrong signal to your former partner, resulting in them rushing off to seek their own advice, afraid that they might be at a disadvantage if they don't, which can quickly polarise everyone's approach and thinking. Putting the signals it sends aside, I often wonder about the extent of the practical help and support a solicitor can provide at this early stage when there has often been very little financial disclosure and each solicitor can only hear one side of the story, whereas of course the mediator sees and hears the whole picture. This all said, I definitely see and have experienced the benefit of people seeing a solicitor early on in order to build their confidence and capacity to make the decision to see a mediator, and here is my main point, especially where the solicitor supports the mediation process and encourages the person to attend the pre-mediation meeting with the mediator. It is here that I return to the important point mentioned in the last video of using the right family professional in the right role. The mediator is the expert in mediation and the expert in assessing with each person whether mediation is suitable and whether they are equipped and ready for mediation, not the solicitor, who is the legal representative expert in the law. The solicitor is not trained or equipped for this purpose, nor is it their role. Now, even if your solicitor is a trained mediator or a collaboratively trained solicitor, only the mediator, as the neutral facilitator, is able to speak to both members of the separating couple when assessing for suitability for mediation and make a decision about suitability of mediation after they have done so. Now, please watch the video series Thinking About Mediation, in which I talk much more about what mediators do. Having said this, there may of course be important things that have to be dealt with very early on that only a solicitor can help with, such as injunctions to prevent money and assets being spent or hidden where there is a real risk of this happening, or registering a matrimonial homes notice where a property is in one name only, or indeed severing a joint tenancy. These are all matters a mediator can provide information about, but only a solicitor can advise about the best course of action. So, for example, it might be necessary for the solicitor to apply for such an injunction or obtain an appropriate undertaking to preserve the family assets so that you can then go on into mediation to decide how these assets are to be divided. But apart from these emergency type of situations, I find it hard to be persuaded of the benefits of seeing a solicitor before seeing a mediator. Let's now look whether you should consider seeing a solicitor before your first mediation session. What about the benefits of seeing a solicitor after you have both attended a pre-mediation meeting with the mediator, often called a MIAM, but before the first joint mediation session? Well, again, this rather depends on how each mediator works. If, for example, it is the mediator's practice to ask each person to complete a financial disclosure booklet, or Form E, before the first joint session, you might want to seek some help and reassurance from a solicitor that you're doing this correctly before you bring it with you into the mediation process to use. It is for this reason I have produced the video series How to Reach Your Own Financial Agreements, which broadly takes you through how to complete this form in order to save you time and the expense of seeing your solicitor at this stage. There's also a very good video from Advice Now. On the same webpage, you'll also see a very good video, again, I've just mentioned, produced by Advice Now, explaining how to complete your Form E. It's very helpful. Your approach and whether these videos are enough, or whether at this stage you feel you need a solicitor, will to some extent depend on the financial complexity of your circumstances and your level of confidence and ability. Now, I can't speak for other mediators, but at this stage I simply ask my clients to do their best with their first attempt to complete their financial booklets and collecting their evidence, using our video series, knowing that I'm going to go through these forms with them both together in some detail during the first mediation session anyway. I also recognise that this will be the first time most of my clients have to do this. Most people are also already very busy and often experiencing challenging emotions, which I cover in my video series Thinking About Mediation. So I really don't expect a fantastic result on the first attempt of completing these forms. This means that to some extent you can relax, knowing that your mediator will go through your financial forms with you both during the first session as the mediator constructs the first draft financial summary, which you can then take to your solicitors for their views. This will often be the first time you all work together in mediation. At the end of this session, you're both likely to have a list of information and documents to obtain and an agreed timetable within which to do it. Now, I'll talk much more about this in the next video about financial disclosure and the role your solicitor has to play. In the meantime, thanks for watching so far.